Over 3,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians built the finest monuments the world has ever seen. The Great Pyramid, the largest stone building on Earth, was constructed with futuristic precision. How were such quantum innovations ever achieved? The Valley of the Kings contains over 60 royal tombs decorated with secret codes. How did the pharaohs reach the afterlife? Hatshepsut's temple, an architectural marvel. But why has the face of the pharaoh been erased? The Sphinx, carved from a single piece of rock, became the world's largest freestanding statue. What secrets lie behind its silent gaze? The Karnak Temple complex, the largest on Earth, became an architectural battleground. What forces made Karnak prosper, and who tore it apart? The Temple of Ramesses the Great was carved into a cliff face, with gigantic figures and chambers stretching for 200 feet. How could it vanish for thousands of years? And then there's Mount Sinai, Egypt's greatest natural wonder. The place where God is said to have spoken to Moses and given mankind the 10 Commandments. Some wonders would shape the course of architecture. Others would become shrines for all eternity. Throughout history, they continue to enthrall and inspire as the 7 wonders of ancient Egypt. Beneath the stones of Egypt's wonders lie their hidden stories. To discover them, we have to travel back through thousands of years, back through ancient dynasties that once ruled the greatest civilization on Earth. This was a time when genius and invention laid the cornerstones of the most revolutionary structures. A time of rivalry and intrigue, conspiracy and deception. When God would pick his prophet from the royal house of Egypt. When a queen became a pharaoh. Kings who, with a single hammer blow, would destroy the past to glorify their name. A time when the rewards were so great, some would be driven to any lengths to realize their ambitions. The kings of ancient Egypt were no mere mortals. They were gods incarnate. And the ancient Egyptians cared more for the burial of their kings than any other nation that has existed. 3,500 years ago, they began to build the most revered cemetery on Earth. The Valley of the Kings is the most magnificent burial ground in the world. 62 tombs cut deep into the rock, overflowing with the treasures of ancient Egypt. Pharaohs like Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great were laid to rest here. But before long, this remote valley would become a haven for treasure hunters. Tomb raiders and vandals would break into the secret underground world. They were followed centuries later by European explorers and adventure-seeking treasure hunters like Belzoni. Then, archaeologists like Howard Carter would make breathtaking discoveries and begin to piece together the lives of the pharaohs. The oldest tomb in the valley belonged to the king Thutmose I from the 16th century BC.
Probably this was chosen as a site for it because of this cleft, which made it easier to begin the cutting of the tomb itself. Hidden tombs were the goals for these early kings.
For the next 500 years, the pharaohs would follow Thutmose I and be buried here in the valley. Ted Brock has been responsible for creating a three-dimensional map of the entire valley and knows every tomb.
Building a tomb was probably in many ways quite similar to quarrying operations that they were carrying out for hundreds or even thousands of years. And so it was a similar process of cutting into the rock, cutting out pieces of rock and removing it.
It was hot, dirty, and dangerous work.
So they'd have groups of people working there, cutting away at the rock face, tunneling in and hauling the debris away. And behind them would be the finishers coming along with the copper and bronze tools, smoothing down the walls, truing them up, and then followed up by the people plastering the walls in preparation for the decoration. So you had all these various steps going on at the same time.
After the walls had been plastered, the decoration began. Outline scribes would draw the hieroglyphics in red ochre. These motifs were copied from pattern books. A vizier would relay the progress to the pharaoh.
Once the outline scribe had done his work, then the master artist has come in and made corrections. You can see that on the head of Horus here, a nice detail and well finished by the master artist. See, there's no details, red outlines here, so that wasn't even drawn by the outline scribe.
Like the coordinates of a teleport, it was essential for every detail to be correct to ensure the pharaoh's successful union with the afterlife.
The tombs were decorated with these descriptions of the underworld. It was taking this hole in the rock and making it the underworld itself.
Most of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings are unfinished, the work cut short by the king's death. But the tomb of Seti I is virtually complete. It was unearthed by the famous treasure hunter Giovanni Battista Belzoni, who in 1817 was lucky enough to chance upon the longest and deepest of all the tombs. Belzoni described finding it as the best day in his life. But it wasn't all easy. Once inside, the main chambers were hidden behind a false wall, and in front of this was a well pit 10 meters deep.
He found as he came in that the rear wall was blocked up, except there was a hole which earlier tomb robbers had entered.
Having discovered the secret entrance, Belzoni went on to explore one of the most cavernous tombs ever found.
They built these large chambers in this tomb, and pillars hewn out of the rock. They're not constructed. And beyond, these other chambers as well, with lots of wall space for more decoration.
The pharaoh's body was mummified to preserve him forever. He would lie within many coffins before being lowered into a sarcophagus. This could weigh as much as 10 tons. The lowest chamber of all, several hundred feet down in the rock, was where the pharaoh was laid to rest.
This is the burial chamber of Seti I. It's really like a giant sarcophagus with a lid representing the starry sky, and the walls describing the sun god's journey through the underworld. And each end of the walls has the protective goddess as found on a sarcophagus.
Here the pharaoh would rest, sealed in state and surrounded by his finest and most valued possessions. The priest and burial party would seal the chamber. But the generations of workers would always be able to remember where each tomb was. And soon, robbers learned where the tombs were. So a royal seal was put over the door lock, but this didn't deter thieves either.
If the central government system was weak and people weren't getting their daily pay and rations, there was a great temptation to go and plunder these tombs.
When the New Kingdom ended, the tombs were abandoned, many stripped of their treasures. Some became shrines, others became hidden. Some may remain undiscovered. But the new kingdom of ancient Egypt left behind far more wonders than tombs alone. The desire for greatness led some pharaohs to immortalize their grandeur in vast temples. The most splendid of these was built by the pharaoh Hatshepsut. Like many pharaohs, Hatshepsut liked to be remembered as a great leader and warrior. What was unusual was that Hatshepsut was a woman. Built over the hillside from the Valley of the Kings, the Temple of Queen Hatshepsut is the most impressive monument of Western Thebes. Hatshepsut's futuristic temple is packed with revolutionary features. A fitting memory to one of Egypt's most innovative pharaohs. Yet unlike Cleopatra or Nefertiti, the story of Hatshepsut's remarkable life is little known.
She actually led armies in battle, and this was something that early historians really didn't want to have to accept. She gave orders and Egypt bowed their head. It did as it was told.
Hatshepsut was the eldest daughter of Thutmose I, and when her husband Thutmose II died, her young stepson became pharaoh, Thutmose III. Worried that the boy might lose control, Hatshepsut appointed herself as co-regent and later king.
There is no doubt that when she took the throne, she was acting unconstitutionally. But she didn't do as other ambitious women would have done and got rid of Thutmose III. He's always there. The thing is, she's the leader.
Hatshepsut set out to finish what her husband Thutmose II had started. A splendid mortuary temple. Under her control, it would take 15 years to become the greatest architectural achievement of her dynasty. Hatshepsut chose as her architect a man called Senenmut. From lowly status, Senenmut had risen up the ranks to become Hatshepsut's most trusted companion.
He was chief of her works. He would have been trained on how to choose a site and then to plan the work and then to manage the work as it goes along.
As the temple was built up, so its visionary design was revealed, with multi-faced columns never seen before.
There's no other temple in Egypt that looks like this. It's unique.
Senenmut copied the ramp design from an adjacent temple complex. But he added other features. On the colonnades, he placed statues to the god Osiris in front of square columns. And at the back of the temple was a unique structure built to withstand the weight of the cliff above it.
This is the innermost sanctuary, and it's constructed in a rather extraordinary way. What they have done is to make a corbelled vault, as we call it, and this is putting one stone on top of another stone and moving closer and closer and closer to the ceiling. And then all those little corners are shaved off on either side, so what you're looking at appears to be a barrel vault.
Hatshepsut illustrated the highlights of her reign on the walls of her temple, including the very first depiction of an expedition she organized in the 9th year of her rule.
This is the only record that we have of an African village 2,500 years ago.
Hatshepsut sent 5 ships to the land of Punt, thought to be near present-day Somalia. The purpose of the trip was to bring back the highly prized incense and perfumes to offer the god Amun at the temple.
They brought back precious woods like ebony, ivory, gold, skins, and everything else that they thought would be a delight for the god Amun. Some say also that the terraces of this particular temple were used as a place to plant these exotic trees.